when it was announced that Putin was going to be recognizing these two areas of Ukraine as independent and sending peacekeeping troops in, the right had something to say. Fox News jumped on it with Jesse Waters blaming Bill Clinton for the Russian invasion, saying if he had just let the Ukrainians keep the nukes, it wouldn't have happened, which maybe. I mean, there is such a thing as a nuclear deterrent. There are also other considerations though, so let's just add a little bit of context to that. Ukraine is now a conventional weapons state. They don't have these weapons of mass destruction, which surrendered its large arsenal of nuclear weapons to Russia back in 1994 following the breakup of the Soviet Union and its declaration of independence. The historic disarmament came as Ukraine was politically unstable. So yes, decades later, sure, there is a benefit of nuclear weapons. Obviously, it comes at a massive cost in terms of the potential for an escalation of war to horrific extents. There's also a massive economic cost to maintaining a nuclear arsenal, but also they had no idea at the time what could end up happening in Ukraine or which sort of insane person could rise to power and what could then happen to those nuclear weapons. So a little bit of historical context, Jesse Waters. I know that that's not what you're paid for, but maybe consider the past a little bit.
You know what else is interesting? If you want to blame it on anyone, and I'm not trying, like for the record, I'm not trying to finger point, but John, do you remember why Trump was impeached the first time? It was because he refused to give aid to Ukraine. So he kind of set the stage for Putin to move in and do what he's been doing. So if you really want to finger point, I would say that's the more relevant direction to point your finger in. Is probably closer to Trump, but
there will be more finger pointing. He says they're sitting ducks for Putin because they lost their nukes. Well, I mean, to be fair, it did take Putin a little while. Anyway, so it also demanded that President Joe Biden, quote, come out without a mask and explain why Ukraine impacts his country. So first of all, just to really easily clarify how serious of an individual this is, the throwing in come in without a mask. This is a child who somebody threw a cheap suit on and then puts in front of a camera. That's all that Jesse Waters is. And again, the explain why Ukraine impacts his country. Look, here's the thing. I don't think for most Americans, they are or should be constantly worried all day long about what happens in Ukraine or in most countries. I think that we do live in a community of humans, and so we should be worried collectively about what happens. But understand that when he says that, he's not saying we should put this a little bit lower on the priority list. What Fox News is saying, and you see this coming across on so many cases, is stop caring about them. Shut up and accept what we are totally fine with happening, which is the invasion. This is a justification for the invasion that you're seeing every day on Fox News.
Yeah, I think what is also kind of jarring about the whole thing is it just downplaying the whole crisis, right? This is a potentially nuclear situation that we're dealing with. Also, as a unifying aspect of, and like the American people are not going to unify over Ukraine and Russia because it's not anything that we really understand to that level. I don't think collectively, nationally, and we're so divided right now. And you have people on Fox News talking about mask mandates and just wearing a mask in general, not even a mandate, right? Just wearing a mask. And why is that even a part of this conversation? There's two very different levels of priority and importance here, and it's being downplayed to the point that it's just outright dangerous.
Yeah, well, so that's one direction that they've gone, and you also have let's see, Emily Campagno on The Five says she's ashamed that Joe Biden is president as Russia sends troops into Ukraine. It breaks my heart, she says. The blame lies squarely on the shoulders of obviously Putin. Well, thank you for acknowledging that, but also Biden. We have a perceived commander-in-chief who has spent all of his time in office manufacturing a narrative about perceived erosion. Don't use perceived twice like that. That's amateur stuff. About perceived erosion of voting rights and of taking direction from teachers unions and the CDC for masking kits. That's what our president has been focused on. Look, this is just what they do. Just what are we talking about? Ukraine? Okay, how can I tie it back to like CRT and trans athletes and Fauci? What does any of this have to do with anything? If you want to criticize him in general as being weak or whatever, fine, do that. I would then challenge Emily Campagno and the rest of the Five to say what they would want Trump to be doing right now were he still president. Because they just want to imply, well, clearly Putin would have never made this move if the strong alpha male Donald Trump was president. Well, let's say that he was, and let's say that Putin was going to move in. What should Trump do to stop it? by the way, I acknowledge that's a very difficult question to answer. I have no idea. I don't know what Biden should have done to have stopped this. But they're implying that the answer is obvious. So obvious, in fact, that we don't need to pause to actually answer it. And so, yeah, like there's no like rallying around the flag at whatever cost. They're going to attack him. They're going to spend yet more years implying that Putin is so strong and virile. He's so awesome. Why can't we have someone like that? Whatever. It's just the whole thing is sickening to me.
And in the past, we used to be able to rely on that kind of rallying energy whenever the United States was going to war. But this one isn't personal enough for Americans, I don't think, for that to be a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and by the way, that rallying around the flag, I would say much of the time, if not the vast majority of the time, has resulted in horrific things being done around the globe or even inside of the territory of the United States.
So yeah, it's just another form of nationalism.
Yeah, exactly. It's designed to shut down your thought process. So much of what's being said about this is designed to shut down your thought process. Most of it coming from people who, like me, don't have a great deal of knowledge about this area of the world or its history. So I use that as the launching point for coming at the topic with some degree of humility, not believing that I have all of the answers. Other people are not burdened by that predisposition. Anyway, really fast, to add on to what Jesse Waters has been saying about like nobody should care what happens there. Tucker Carlson in his show yesterday said, so today we sent another letter to Vladimir Putin asking for an interview. We hope we get it. We also sent a message to the president of Ukraine, who technically also has an answer, but Tucker Carlson has a name, but Tucker Carlson can't be bothered to know it. We would like that interview too. Now, neither one of these men runs a democracy by traditional American standards. Both of them are tyrants, but they're in the news and we would love to talk to them. An interview is hardly an endorsement. So all of that is designed to make him seem like, no, I'm just objective. I just want to talk to everyone. But the actual message of that was, they both suck. They equally suck. You should not care about one more than the other. They're all dictators. Everyone is a dictator. So whatever they do, even if it's secretly what I want them to do, is fine. And you shouldn't be bothered by it at all.
Yeah. I don't know what Tucker Carlson does or why he does any of what he does, but sure, maybe he'll get an interview with Vladimir Putin or Zelensky. That'll be interesting. We'll see what he does with, like, what would he even ask them? That would be interesting to see, I think.
I don't know. Yeah. I would prefer that he would do that rather than talk about members of the squad, honestly. In any event, that is the current state of things. We will see how things develop, when these peacekeeping troops will move in, what Biden might do in response. I'm gonna pointlessly end the segment again by reminding the trolls and the haters not interested in war remotely. That's obvious. You can't watch 10 seconds of the show without coming away with that conclusion, but they haven't watched 10 seconds of the show, so they're not seeing this either. Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.